Welcome back to Fun Fact Friday. We've got Philip Howard here and Amy is videoing. That's me. And today, one of the things we're going to talk about is the little creeks that you cross over when you're in the village headed north to the Hatteras Ferry. We're going to talk about one of those in particular, and you might not even realize you're crossing over creeks, but we're going to let Philip tell you what's going on there.
Traditionally, there were 7 tidal creeks between the village of Ocracoke and the Pony Pen. And these tidal creeks come from the Sound. And obviously, they don't go all the way across to the ocean. They're tidal. They flow with the tide back and forth. And there used to be 7 of them. And let's talk about the ones starting about where the National Park Service campground is and traveling north to Hatteras Inlet. The first creek you'd pass over is called Island Creek. And that's one of the widest ones, but you might not notice it when you pass over it. The next one was called Shadhole Creek, but when they repaved that Highway 12 a number of years ago, there was virtually nothing left of that creek. It had dried up. So there's no evidence of that one anymore. And that was the Shadhole Creek. The next one is Old Hammock Creek, and you'll see a sign to that one. And after that is Molasses Creek, after which Molasses Creek Band was named. The next one is Old Quawks Creek, and you can read about Old Quawk in my book, in our blogs and newsletters. It's an interesting story. He had a little encampment down there. The next one is Parker's Creek, and there was actually a family of Parkers who had some sort of a farm down there, a dairy farm. I don't think it was very large, and it didn't last long, but that's where that gets its name. And then the final one, as you go north, is Tryard Creek. And that one, people often wonder why it's called Tryard Creek. And it all has to do with the whaling industry off the Outer Banks. And Outer Bankers, mostly down south of us, around Cape Lookout, did more whaling. But there was some up on Hatteras Island and even some on Ocracoke, but it was shore-based whaling. It wasn't like New England whalers that went out in ships and did all the processing of the whales at sea. These were sometimes what they called drift whales that would wash ashore, or they would be close to shore and they could take small boats out and track
the whales.
them. Pardon me?
And hunt the whales?
And hunt the whales, yeah. The whale that was most often hunted was the right whale, and it got its name because it was the right whale to hunt, because they were easier to catch and they floated after they were killed. But once the whales were killed, they would be dragged to shore and then dragged up onto shore, and the blubber, the oil, would be tried or what's the other word?
Processed?
Rendered.
Rendered.
It would be rendered, but it was called trying the whale oil. And there would be fires built, and they would render that oil in a process. I talked about that in one of my books as well. But that's where that name comes from. It was a try yard where they tried or rendered the whale oil down there near that creek.
And I was probably in my teens or later before I realized what that was named for. It never made any sense to me why there was something called a try-yard. I didn't know the term. And I bet most people didn't know that whaling was an industry here on Ocracoke. It wasn't a big industry.
It wasn't big. It was just occasional that whales were hunted on Ocracoke. But like I said, there were more whales hunted at around Cape Lookout, down Shackleford Banks.
And obviously there's no whale hunting now today,
Right.
But we do occasionally still see whales pass by the shore, usually in the wintertime when they're traveling.
In the wintertime, from November through February is when you'd most likely see them.
And most of the time they're far out enough that you can just see the, is it spume? Is that what it's called? Spouting, and the, yeah, a little bit of the back as it goes by. But it's still very exciting.
I saw one time, and it would just come up, its back would come out of the water, and it was moving the same direction I was, and it was moving about my walking speed, and I walked along with it for about 15 or 20 minutes, and every once in a while it would just surface and come to, no flukes coming up into the air. It was just a real gentle up and down.
And they used some of the oil that they rendered there. Was that what they used for the lighthouse then?
That was the original oil for the lighthouse.
And is that primarily why they hunted the whales here, or was it ever exported?
I mean, whale oil was very popular in the 1700s and 1800s, not only for lighthouse lights, but for watches and clocks. It was just so pure and so wonderful for those delicate instruments.
And they would send it across the sound then for sale from here?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that happened, but
that's...
Yeah, it was probably sent all over the world, whale oil.
All right, so when you're driving to or from Ocracoke and you pass over Tryard Creek, you can think about this and think about the small whaling industry that used to be here on Ocracoke. So thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll check back in next Friday.
Bye-bye.